we get it. You want to give your child the absolute best, but you might be spending more money than you actually need. Most parents actually overspend on their Montessori materials. It's really, really easy to do. You just start adding to that cart online, and before you know it, you're like, oh, I needed this, and I need this, and I need this, and this blog tells me I also need this, and can't do without this. And before you know it, you've racked up thousands of dollars in Montessori materials. Now, if you were planning a really pricey private school budget already, let's say $10,000 to $20,000, and you're thinking, ha ha ha. Maybe you're thinking, this isn't so bad. Like $5,000 versus $20,000, win, right? But most of us, let's be real, if you're homeschooling, you're probably a budget-minded family already. Many of us are doing without one solid income in order to make the homeschooling work, or part-time income. So let's just be real. So you're looking at these Montessori materials online, you're feeling the pressure to buy everything. We want you to ask the question during the session today, is it really necessary? Yeah. Or are you just motivated by that little voice in your head that says, I should have all the things?
That's right.
So I'm going to go ahead and give you the secret, because it isn't really a big secret, but there is actually, it's so much better if you can adopt a system in your approach to Montessori rather than just thinking of it as a checklist of things to buy. Yeah. And if you think of it as a system, like you're going to embrace the Montessori approach as a way of life, as a system of teaching and homeschooling your child, then you are going to learn exactly like what you're going to use, when you're going to use it, and why it actually matters. And that is what's going to help you to make your spending decisions.
Yeah, you know, the material budget is the biggest mistake that we see parents make. Either they use it as an excuse not to, or as a fear or a limiter to get into Montessori because they think they have to have it, or they wind up spending a lot and then it sits around and isn't used and they feel frustrated. It comes from a genuine place usually, which is you don't want to deprive your children. If you're homeschooling, you're already hyper invested in your children's lives, as all parents are. But I think especially for those of us who decide to homeschool, we're taking on an extra responsibility that not everybody is able to or wants to do. And so, of course, it's only natural that we would want to have all the best all the time. And that is completely good. You do want to give your children the very, very best. However...
Of course.
Yeah, no question about it. However, materials don't teach.
Right.
Your approach teaches. Okay, right. So Montessori isn't about having stuff. It's about how you use it, when you introduce it, why it matters. And without a system, the materials are just going to sit on the shelf, or they're going to get used a couple times and then not used again, or the kids aren't going to get out of it what they really could, because the material itself doesn't teach.
Yeah, now,
it's the system.
I actually saw a reel on Instagram just this morning, and I can't remember the exact text, but it was something to the effect of like, the materials are doing the teaching.
Oh, yeah.
It's not you. And my gut response was like, yes and no. Like, yes, the materials are wonderful ways for your child to explore their world. You don't want to make your lesson all about you.
Nope.
You know,
nope.
You want to allow your child to experience playing with their materials or toys, whatever it is that's in front of them, or a bug or whatever it is. But like, let's just be clear, like the magic's not in this.
That's right. Your job is to get out of your child's way, right? So that your child can do their job. And their job is learning. They're naturally inclined to it. They want to. That's the play is the work of a child idea, right? The child is always learning. Now, the material can facilitate, it can support, but the material alone doesn't do it. The child is the one leading the learning. The material, when appropriate, can support that. But let's also be clear, a material can be all kinds of stuff. You just gave some examples, right? It could be this red and blue rod, and we're going to talk about this later in the show. It could also be a sand pile.
Right.
It could be a best friend that's hanging out on the playground and they're doing gross motor.
Could be a ladybug.
It could be a blank journal. It could be you having a learning experience together.
Yeah.
Like all of those fit into the category of things to support the learning. Not all of which, in fact, almost none of which we mentioned there, you actually have to spend very much money or any money on.
That's right.
You just have to have the mindset, the system to approach the thinking.
Now, all of these are all concepts that we talk about in with our members in Child of the Redwoods, particularly in that Foundations of Primary course, which used to be called Homeschool of the Redwoods and still is in my heart and always will be.
A lot of fans out there know it as Homeschool.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. But I think a lot of people are surprised when I tell them that, like, you as the guide, you're part of the environment. You're actually a material. And I know that sounds kind of funny, but think about the amount of time your child probably spends with stuff like this versus the amount of time they spend engaging with you.
Yeah, that's right.
As their parent. Or grandma or grandpa or the person saying hi to them at the grocery store. Like, people are always going to be the biggest attractors to children and provide the biggest learning opportunities as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're not anti-material. Like, you need a hammer to build a house, but the hammer doesn't build the house. The carpenter builds the house.
That's such a great example, yes.
Yeah, so it's about having the right tool for the job, and sometimes that tool is a hammer, and sometimes it's knowledge, or sometimes it is open space, or sometimes it's something completely different. And that's what's so beautiful about the Montessori approach, is that it really is about following the child and letting the child's natural ability to learn come through and stepping back and giving them space, which is really hard to do in our culture. We want to guide the children in a very precise way, and children do need to be supported. It's not to say, like, just go forth and do. Like, that's not the answer. But the answer is that the child, we believe, as Montessori teaches, that there's a kind of a spark inside the child that drives them to learn, that is speaking to them at all times, and that we as adults, what Maria would say is, we often intervene too much, and we actually limit or control or dampen that light, that fire inside the child. And that is the goal. Therefore, the goal is to get out of the way. And you can dampen that with too much material, just as you can with too many rules.
That's right.
Okay, so how would you know? Sorry. How would you know?
How would you know what?
Well, how would you know how to do this? How would you go about doing the system?
Okay. So we're going to give you the exact steps.
Okay.
All right. This is the exact system that we teach our Child of the Redwoods members. There's no gatekeeping here. Follow these pieces, words of wisdom that ultimately, like, came from Maria Montessori and her predecessors and have come forth from all of the students who have learned from her all the way down to you, okay? You're going to learn the system. You're going to teach other people. It's going to continue. Yeah. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to observe your child first.
Yeah.
And you can't get away with this. I know everyone wants to shop first, right? It's our instinct. It's my instinct too. I'm like, oh, hey, like, I want to do something new with my hair. I'm going to go to Amazon, right? Like, maybe you don't do this, but, but maybe you do it with other things. I don't know.
No, you're right.
But
Well,
that's
it's
my
because we don't
instinct.
trust
Like,
ourselves. We don't
what am
trust
I gonna?
ourselves.
What do I need to buy? Or and I even do it with organizing. I'm like, okay, this closet is a mess. What do I need to buy to fix this problem? Right? I mean,
That's right.
we have been trained to instinctively think this first.
It's because we associate the purchase of the thing with the purchasing of expertise or a solution.
Yeah.
Right? That's how the advertising works and is.
And it's very effective.
Very
Yeah.
effective.
I mean,
We didn't become that because of advertising. Advertisers in the early 20th century just figured
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
Like, that's how humans work, and then they designed everything around it. So it is only natural that you would go out and buy materials first if you're not feeling confident
Right.
in your ability or your child's ability.
Right.
But the answer is, don't shop first.
Don't shop first. Observe
Observe.
first. Yes. This is a lesson that I learned my first year of teaching kindergarten. The first year I was in a classroom full of primary age children all by myself. And I remember it was the week before school started. We actually weren't given any materials, or very, very few. I think we had some math, those little blocks that you connect together to count for math. And I was grateful to have those. There was like a closet full of dusty stuff, but I wasn't really given anything to go on. So I was trying to set up a shelf made up of things around the house, the things that I was gifted, things that I already had.
I remember going through those old closets full of stuff, decades of stuff, trying to find things together with you. Yeah.
Well, this most impressionable moment for me was sitting on the floor. I can just feel that dirty feel of that gross classroom carpet underneath my bottom as I sat in front of my very first classroom shelf for kids in kindergarten. And I said it was blank. And I was like, great, Mom, because she'd been teaching in the classroom my mom. And she had been teaching in the classroom for so many years as a Montessori teacher in primary. And I was like, all right, what do I put on this shelf? And she's like, I don't know. And I was like, what do you mean? You've been teaching in the classroom so long. Like, you've got a classroom full of materials. Just tell me what to put on the shelf.
That's right.
And she said, you haven't met your kids yet. How would you know? And I said, okay, there was like this building sense of frustration and fear and terror in my heart, as I was like, is she really not going to tell me like what's on the shelf? And she's like, so then she says, like, here's what we can do. We can put some fun things to play with on the shelf, and then you can watch your children interact with them, and then you will know what they need, and then you're going to redo your shelf. Later, after you've observed the kids for a while. And let's say you've observed them for like 6 weeks, you probably have a pretty good idea if you do your observation right. And that was probably the biggest lesson I ever learned in Montessori. And it was a very hard lesson. It was shocking to me. And it's the lesson that I try to pass on in our primary course today.
Yeah, because it's kind of like you felt at that moment like...
But people rarely believe me.
You're thrown into the middle of the ocean and like, well, you'll figure out how to swim when you're, bobbing up and down. That's what it could feel like. But that is not actually how it is at all. Like, because that means, with that analogy, which is, the onus is completely on you. Like, oh, you're going to drown. But that's not the relationship you want with the child. The child is coming in with his or her own voice, needs, vision, drive to learn. They're the ones who are learning to swim, and they already know how not to drown. Your job is to figure out how to make their swimming more effective, and so we have to invert the relationship.
Yes. So that is not to say that you're going to start off with a blank shelf, right? You're going to put some stuff on it. You're going to observe your child. So don't go shopping first. That's the very first thing that you should think about as real advice from the heart, a real Montessori advice. Lots of shopping lists out there. Don't shop first, okay?
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on this just a little bit. Okay. I know we were going to move on, but I want to say, because I hear this a lot, like, oh, my child just turned X. I think they are ready for this thing. And how would I know? And, if you're in a homeschooling environment, unlike in your situation where you'd never met the children and they walk in and then you have to assess, you're with your child all the time. So you should not think about school as starting and stopping. Like, now they're in the classroom, okay. It's a ramp. If you're interested in homeschooling your child using the Montessori approach, no matter how old they are, start today by observing your child and seeing what things they're drawn to. That will tell you what to populate that initial shelf with. You can do the stuff that you were talking about already. You don't have to wait. Your child is already exhibiting signs of readiness. And you can learn what those signs of readiness are if you're not comfortable. Like Maria lays it out very clearly. You can join a program like ours, which will lay out how to observe it. Or you can read Maria's own works, and it'll tell you how to do it. But you can learn how to identify what's happening in your child's life right now so that it's a steady, kind of more like a progression into homeschooling rather than a snap. And I think that snap is often overwhelming too.
Yes. All right, so you're out there, you've got some toys or some fun stuff on the shelf, you're observing, you're hopefully learning about sensitive periods along the way and starting to identify your child's developmental needs. But a lot I mean, that could take you very, very far. But I can tell you what will really feel like you have things in hand is if you are using a scope and sequence for the Montessori curriculum. And I have an example right here. This is essentially our scope and sequence for our I have the primary
I think
cards
these are just
in
the
here right
primary
now.
cards, yeah.
But we have a whole set for lower elementary as well. Now you're not going to be following the scope and sequence perfectly, right? You are observing your child. You're going to move through the scope and sequence. It's just to give you a direction.
Yeah, that's why we made these into cards, because what you're going to do is, in a lot of programs, traditional programs, it's a list. Like you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. That is not watching the child, observing and reflecting. So we created this concept, these cards, so that you can be looking at what your child's interested in and then find the topic concept that's related, and then it lists all the lessons that you could give that would support that child's interest. So it allows you to both observe and follow the child, but also have a sense of the kinds of lessons that would be supportive at that moment. And we were very intentional with designing the cards to be flexible in that way.
That's right. So this gives you a step-by-step framework for you to move through all of the Montessori lessons in a general order and not to overthink that particular order. Because as you're observing your child, you're going to, again, adjust and modify based on what you see. But I find it very, very difficult myself to try to learn something new without being given an overall picture of like where I'm headed and the progression of what journey I need to take to get there. And so you can think of the scope and sequence, whatever scope and sequence you follow. I adore our planning cards. This is a new invention. I don't know anybody out there who is doing the same thing. It's brand new, totally original to Child of the Redwoods. But you can go through these and feel secure in knowing that this is the path that a Montessori child generally would take.
That's right.
Right? So I find a lot of comfort in having a scope and sequence personally when I'm learning new things, and I know that the members of our community do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This doesn't mean that you don't have a scope and sequence. The cards are leveled. They will show you how to progress through it, but they're designed to let you also follow your child through that observation.
Yeah, and just to give you a little peek inside, this is our sensorial foundational lesson guide for primary. All of the lessons in here that you might see are linked to, like listed here in the cards themselves. So level 2, getting into shapes, circles, rectangles, and triangles, you're going to see that. You're going to be able to find that right in your guide.
We have some couple good questions, so we'll just go ahead and take those because I think it's pertinent. So I think this is probably Sarah. Says, can you provide an example of a walkthrough from something observed to matching into a sensitive period to a card to a supportive activity, like the whole flow? Yeah. Do you want to give that a shot?
Yeah. Okay. So I think.
Excuse me.
So let's think about those sensorial materials. Like I'm just going to take a very easy, an easy example. Let's say you give your child a set of unit blocks. They're not Montessori or like those beautiful little colored Waldorfy blocks that you see that are so popular these days on Montessori blogs and on social media. You give your child a set of those, and you're going to watch what are they doing with them. Are they most interested in stacking them? You know, you're very young. A young toddler will be interested in stacking them and then knocking them down. And that's immediately going to make you think pink tower. But it could make you think about the knobless cylinders, which also can be stacked. And those knobless cylinders can be stacked. They're real small, so they can be stacked. And when they fall over, they're not going to damage anything.
Yeah, because we have a set over here somewhere, but Yeah, they're small and they're uniformly wood colored. At least our set is.
Yeah.
So they are less likely to mar.
Right.
I think the pink tower often can chip and things as well.
So if you're choosing a material that, if you're noticing like my child is more interested in the stacking, go ahead and give them the pink tower. But if your child is more interested in knocking stuff down, then you're going to stay with like nesting blocks for a little while, or something that's like lighter and won't fall over. I have never met a child that hasn't wanted to build the pink tower from the top to the bottom, and it never works.
Oh, sure. The very tiniest, of course.
I know. So those are the kind of things that I would be looking for. You could also be looking to see like, is my child interested in making designs with those blocks when they're playing with them? We actually have, here I have the red and blue rods out right in front of me. We actually have a beautiful activity where you're making I don't know if you've made the maze. I think that Sarah has for sure, where you can make the maze and show your child how materials can fit together end to end to make designs. Right. You can do that with almost any of the sensorial materials as well.
So her question is, from the observation to the sensitive period to the activity. So the observation is you see the child working with these blocks, and then you, through further observation, you kind of deduce whether it's about the ordering of it, or it's more of the, I want to see them fall down.
Yes. Conversely, it could be like if your child is like picking up a unit block and making it talk to another unit block, like completely different direction, right?
That's right.
Your child's really interested in maybe dramatic play, and probably it's that sensitive period for language. They're really working on their expressive vocabulary. And so, so interestingly, even though you're noticing your child, the way your child is interacting with a hands-on, physical, constructive material, noticing that they want to do more engaged talking at the same time, that's going to tell me they're more interested in learning vocabulary than the actual building. It's not the block.
And that actually is a great one, because it goes to why like the materials themselves are not the power, right? Because the child will creatively apply. I also love this. It reminds me of that concept of the 5 whys. Do you remember that? Like you keep asking why?
That's right.
I'm sorry. It's the seasonal change I'm having.
I know.
For frog in my throat this morning, guys. The 5 whys idea, like you interrogate what's happening again and again and again and it helps you get to the root. That's actually what you want to do here. So if you see the child with the blocks, the conclusion you can make is, oh, they love blocks. But that's not a very helpful way to understand. You want to continue to ask yourself through and observe to find the answer. What are they doing? Like, oh, they are stacking the blocks. Why are they stacking them? Oh, they like to watch them fall over. Or, oh, they like the blocks. What are they doing with them? Oh, they're making them talk. Oh, why are they making them talk? Well, or what are they doing in terms of making them talk? From there, you would then go to
or they counting them.
Yeah, or they're counting them, right.
So that would be math. Them or organizing them.
Yeah, so then you would turn to the curriculum. And you would find the lesson or the level, at least, that would match to what you're seeing. So if the child is making them talk, that's going to be in reading and writing. If they are doing them and counting them, that's in mathematics. If they are stacking them up, that's sensorial. And so then you would turn to it. So that's the observation.
Yeah, we could keep going. Geometry, making shapes out of them. Great.
So that's a great question. I hope that helps. Pia also adds, brilliant advice. People ask me all the time for a list of materials and for their toddlers. Right. And I have always observed and shopped and didn't know what to say to people who ask. Now I know why. Well, wonderful.
Yep.
The answer is fewer materials, more observation, right?
Right. At least at first.
Yeah, your child will tell you through his actions or her actions what they need.
Yes. So,
all right.
Also, when you do start purchasing materials, so to kind of move you through this process, you're observing, you are going to use a scope and sequence, not specifically follow it to a T, but use it to guide you. And then you are going to choose some materials. But if you want to not overspend, if you really want to be a budget-minded person, you're going to be picky and choosy with these materials. You want to pick materials that will actually do more than one thing for you and that will have a lasting impact.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's give some examples of this.
Well, the pink tower comes to mind for me
Okay, why?
because it's very eye-catching. It's really fun, but its usability is not long-lasting. Like,
Oh, I thought you were going to give it as an example of a multi-use.
oh no, well, I mean, I was going to compare that to something like a movable alphabet, which you
Okay.
can use for years.
Yes, all
And the
right.
pink tower, I think, it's very powerful, and you can
Yes.
do many things with
It's
it.
iconic and it's beautiful.
But we didn't have one.
No,
For a reason.
for a
like
long
you
time,
can, yeah. I mean, we have one now for purposes of demonstration, but our kids didn't use one
That's right.
because you don't need it necessarily. You can accomplish similar things with other materials.
That's right.
And it has a very specific use. Now, not as narrow as something like the binomial cube or something. I think it's pretty narrow as well. There's some materials that are like super narrow, like you'll use it for one thing. And it's not worth your money unless you want to have a whole house full of stuff. And it will be a house full.
Yes, that's actually another good example is you don't need a binomial and a trinomial cube. If you're going to get one, just get the trinomial. It's a puzzle. It's fun.
It's awesome to have if you
you can
love
have
it.
it. But the truth, if we're really looking at like being budget savvy, it doesn't do more than one thing.
Yeah,
It just teaches one concept, as David says. So the movable alphabet is a good example of that. You're not just going to use it to associate letters to sounds. You're going to use it for word building with the CVC words, the consonant, vowel, consonant words. You're going to use it with more complicated words. You're going to demonstrate those puzzle words with it as well, non-phonetic words. And then you're just going to continue using it all through lower elementary.
Yeah.
A lot of people stop at the end of primary, but they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And it's very clear in our lower elementary course that no, you're intended to keep using that movable alphabet.
I mean, if you ever played Scrabble, you know how much fun it is to make words out of tiles.
Yes.
And it doesn't stop being fun.
Yes.
So,
another great example that I can think of right now is the golden beads.
oh gosh, infinitely
Yes.
useful.
And so if we just think about that word multi-use, one material that can do many, many things, golden beads can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, all four of those things. And it's great for just creative word problem solving. It helps your child to understand base 10, the whole system of base 10, and it helps your child to understand money,
Yeah, totally.
right, those concepts are going to be used in multiple ways, and it's just a great all-around material.
Yep.
And even though the pink tower is a great all-around material too, the golden beads is going to take you a lot further, and you're going to do more things with it.
Yeah, no, this isn't to say you can't and shouldn't consider buying or making or whatever. If you want a trinomial cube, you should get one. It's fun. It's like a puzzle, like having a Rubik's
But we're
Cube or
talking
something.
specifically about not overspending and about being budget savvy. right
However, most people will not find it useful. And if it is keeping you from trying Montessori, just the sheer thinking about all the kinds of things you could buy, delete that right now.
Right.
That is not an acceptable excuse. Sorry. I'm telling it like it is, folks.
What's not an acceptable excuse?
The limitation of the materials. You can't, I mean, there are lots of reasons why you might find Montessori out of reach, but don't let money, the spend of money on materials, be one of those blockers.
Got it.
Don't if the thought comes in your mind I can't afford a pink tower, or I can't afford all the stuff in a primary classroom, therefore I can't do Montessori. No.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, it's lasted for Montessori has been around a long time, and it's used all over the world in all kinds of situations, including at home, very, very successfully. And that's because the Montessori method, the system, is incredible. The materials support that.
Okay.
So we have a couple more notes.
Oh, okay. While we're on that.
Or did you want to add something?
No, I was going to move on.
Okay.
Do you still have something on multi-use materials?
Pia says the red and blue rods have been super used in our home. We use them
love it.
all the time. We even used it to make our map of the solar system. I think that's a good one. You know what I like about the red and blue is that they represent units and measurement as well. They're colorful. They are a great gateway to helping take something very abstract, which is like distance and numbers and things like that, and making them very literal. And I love the idea of using it to make the solar system. Like you could imagine making I don't know exactly how you did it, Pia, but I could imagine doing relative distance from the sun. So like setting a standard, like Mercury is closest, and then the gas giants are much further out, and kind of you could lay that out on a great big rug.
Oh, those are creative uses for this material.
Well, that's a good reason to have one.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about ways to DIY the concept of one-to-one correspondence in just a little bit. Do you have any other fun comments for us before we go on?
Actually, we've got a lot of great comments today. Pia also adds the pink tower, brown stair, and knobless cylinders have been underused. I would love to know how to keep using them.
Yeah.
That's a good question. And then she also says, I'm very confused about the geometric cabinet. Do I buy it? I know it's one of your 21 essential materials. How do I DIY it? Stuck on this one. Also a great question.
An easy DIY as well.
Pia clarifies that 1 unit was an AU. I think it's astronomical unit, right? So that is great. I love that ratioing. And then, so you had some good questions about specific materials. And then Megan also asks or adds, for me, not only is it fun to buy things, I'm also hoping the excitement of the purchase will motivate me to learn how to use it with my children. That doesn't usually work out. How many times have we bought a guitar assuming that we're going to become a guitar wizard or piano, or we do it all the time with stuff, right? Like we have an ambition, or we want to be a writer, or we want to be a painter, and we go buy a whole bunch of stuff, and it just doesn't come and then it collects dust. I think it's really common. It's not just with materials. We hope that the material will motivate us, and that's not what happens. The material thing can't motivate.
That's right.
The motivation comes from within.
That's right. Yeah.
So wonderful. I don't know if you wanted to address any of the things that Pia asked, or if you want to.
The geometric cabinet is a great DIY. We didn't have one with our kids when they were young. I only got one for demos, so only very recently. However, what's inside the geometric cabinet is something that is an essential. And so you can very easily, you really just want to have shapes for your child to explore. And so you can, since you have access to the primary and lower elementary geometric cabinet step-by-step instructions, you can just DIY each drawer. And you can find those shapes in printable version online. You can, if you're mathematically savvy, you can draw them as well.
You can print out a copy, cut it out on foam board, and then cut that out, and they'll have more tactile
if you want a little
strength.
bit more texture to it.
And that's
but try not to overthink it. It is an essential. Shapes are important. A lot of people if you're in primary, you can get away with using the metal insets for quite some time. I know that, Pia, you're on the border between like exploring lower L. So yeah, you're going to want to make yourself a set.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. We had some other good questions, but I think we also wanted to talk about a third concept within this system, and that is that you need an interdisciplinary approach. This actually fits well with the multi-use. And we've had some wonderful examples here already in the chat of using materials in ways that were not originally imagined. So like creating a 2-scale representation of the solar system using the red and blue rods. That is also an excellent interdisciplinary lesson, because you're teaching the solar system, which is in physical science. You're teaching ratios. You're teaching, or you could be, depending on how you did the lesson. You're definitely teaching counting, right? It's 1, 2, 3. There's all kinds of things built into that one lesson, and you're using a material to facilitate that. So taking an interdisciplinary approach is an essential part of a good systematic approach to Montessori.
That's right. It's built into our curriculum. Members who are there with us, hello, love you. You already know what we're doing. This month we're working on cloud. Next month we're going to deep dive into ladybugs. There are many members in the Child of the Redwoods family that are not doing the theme of the month. They're kind of piecing together their own interdisciplinary approach that their child, based on what they've observed that their child is interested in and what's going on in their world, and we really heavily encourage that approach as well. Some of our members combine 2 themes at once, which seem to fit together for them. I know a lot of families combined our pirouette deep dive with the symphony one from the previous December, and those are such a great match together.
Yeah, I know somebody in our community was asking earlier about whether we had studies on birds, and we did from our egg unit, which we did a couple years ago.
Yeah, members responded. They thought that we have some in fly and egg.
Yeah, we did pictures of. We had a really cool one. I think it was might have been an egg or maybe a fly, where you had we did a drawing. A life drawing of a feather, and then you had to match it to the bird.
Yeah.
And that was a really fun categorizing card activity.
So, if you're brand new, an interdisciplinary approach, the word inter means between, discipline, really, we're not talking about teaching your child or getting their behavior right.
Please.
We're talking about the discipline in terms of subjects. So it means you're going to be exploring between subjects. And I love the word interdisciplinary because it's got so many it's got so many syllables in there, and it's such a lovely word.
Yeah, so we'll take that Pia example so she was doing the solar system, right? We already talked about there's physical science and learning the names of the solar system, depending on the age of the child. That could tie back into the first grade lesson about the Earth's, the solar system's beautiful children, or the sun's beautiful children. Yes. You could also tie in language, reading and writing, and creating an imaginative story about traveling in a spaceship from one planet to the next, and what would you see? So all kinds of amazing ways that you can expand on something. And it starts with seeing that child's interest and then thinking through how to sort of bring that to life.
Yeah. And that's really it. If you incorporate those things, start with observation, you're thinking of Montessori as an approach to real life, you're using some kind of scope and sequence to walk you through the Montessori lessons, generally in order, adjusting based on what you see, and then you're not shopping. you're really looking at real life, and you're taking that interdisciplinary approach, and that's the system, friends. That is exactly the thing that we teach our members. Anyone can follow it. Anyone with any budget can do this. So don't feel like you don't have enough money to do Montessori if you're brand new. And if all of this feels overwhelming, consider taking the next step to helping yourself to have that support that you need. Having great materials only just gets you it's great, but it doesn't give you the entire
it's
Montessori
helpful to
approach.
have, you can imagine your child gets interested in the solar system. I'm going to go back to Pia's example.
Okay.
Having those red and blue rods on hand was helpful, right? So that's an example of where having materials can facilitate. But
absolutely,
if you did it with unsharpened pencils that are the same length, that would also allow you to do a similar concept while you waited for your red and blue rods to arrive by mail or whatever, right? So there are ways that you can approach that even if you don't have the materials. And that's why I said so directly, don't let material FOMO, whatever you want to call it, keep you from trying out Montessori, because Montessori is just too amazing to let it get away.
That's true. So from the heart, if you're looking for a step-by-step plan that will give you a full curriculum, you'll never have to wonder what to teach. Here it is. We have it inside the Child of the Redwoods curriculum. There are clear material guides. We're not anti-materials, as David said. We do have lists of materials in every single foundational lesson guide. There are going to be lists of materials. So if you want to use the Montessori materials, they're listed here. I do recommend that you not try to buy everything at once. Only buy what you need at that moment. Okay, so we have our materials listed by level rather than for the entire sensorial subject area. And we also give you budget-friendly strategies just like this so that you can do Montessori affordably in your own home. And of course, there are lesson presentations inside our step-by-step guides as well. So you don't have to clutter your brain trying to memorize every single presentation. Literally, before you introduce something to your child, you can either go to one of our foundational lesson guides and look up step-by-step instructions for how to show your child that material, the kind of the purpose of the material,
Yep.
or you can go to our Lesson Explorer.
That's right, which is our online database.
Yeah. So anyway, either way, we would love to welcome you into the Child of the Redwoods family if you're new and that's something that you're looking for. Who is that? Oh, hey, it's Mr. Bunny.
I'm going to tell you what. All this money talk is making this bunny bored.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Oh, you don't find money interesting?
No, we don't use money. We use carrots, of course. You know, we went to an all-carrot-based economy in the 1970s.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you use carrots.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and can you eat your money?
No, no, we
Well.
cannot. Definitely not.
Score one for the bunnies.
Mr. Bunny. Don't even mention that out loud. No, we do not. It would be very harmful to put anything small and metal into your mouth.
That's right. If you're a bunny, like a Mr. Bunny, and you use carrots as money, only then could you possibly eat one.
Okay, yes.
If it's a carrot.
Yes, if it's a carrot, you may eat your money.
Do you have little pictures of people on your money?
Yes.
Well, we don't.
Oh.
Ours are just simply delicious carrots.
Well, that sounds really yummy.
Yes, it's delicious, but I have to admit something.
What?
I as much as I love our carrot-based economy,
Yeah.
I sometimes don't know how to, combine different carrots together.
Oh, what do you mean by combine?
Well, sometimes, let's say I had 2 carrots,
Okay.
and then my friend came along and he said, I'm going to give you a carrot. And
Got
then I
it.
put those together, and I don't know how many that is.
Okay, so you have 2 carrots.
Yeah.
And your friend came along and gave you 1 more carrot.
That's right.
Well, have you considered using a Montessori material to find out?
Is it a carrot?
No, it's not a carrot, but it's
Well, then
pretty
no, I
good.
haven't.
I'm going to get something that's going to help you to solve that problem right now.
Okay. Now I'm getting hungry for carrots.
Do you know what these are, Mr. Bunny?
No.
They're not carrots. They are our red and blue rods. And
Oh.
this is going to represent 1 carrot. Would you like to hold that one?
Yeah.
Okay. And this one is going to represent 2 carrots.
Wow.
So if your friend had 2 carrot, 1 carrot, and that's in your hands. Oh, let's switch.
Thank you.
Okay. If you had 2 carrots already and your friend had 1, let's put them together and see how many that is.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Let's count.
1, 2, 3.
3 carrots. It's pretty simple, isn't it?
That means I got 3 carrots?
Interesting. These
That
red and blue
is.
rods are a multi-use material.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's really amazing. Now, I have to tell you, can this do even more things than that? For example, okay, this is just an example. Let's say you were going to have a giant, cool dude bunny party.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're going to have all of your friends come over for a big carrot time bash, and everybody,
fun.
yeah, right. And you had to bring carrots, of course, because it's a carrot time bash.
Of course.
So the first time, of course, everybody brings 3 carrots. Now this party cannot be complete unless you have 3 guests.
3 carrots and 3 guests.
Yeah, but how many carrots would that be?
You have to bring 3 carrots.
Yeah,
For 3 people.
everybody brings 3 carrots. That's right. 3
there
guests.
and there are 3 people at
Yeah,
the party.
That's right.
Okay, so here's 3.
Okay.
This person brings 3.
Yeah,
This person brings 3.
That's right.
And this person brings 3.
that's right.
I have the perfect Montessori material for this.
Yeah. Oh.
It's going to be our colored beads. Have you used those
Oh.
before, Mr. Bunny?
No.
Okay, let's do it. Let me show you. I'm going to get our 3 bead.
Oh, look at that.
How many are on here? Can you count them?
1, 2, 3.
3. Would you like to hold this one, Mr. Bunny?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have one, so you're one of the people, and I'll be one of the people, and so I'll have this little 3 bead.
Yep.
And David, would you like to be one
Yeah,
of the people?
yeah, sure.
Okay. And here you go.
Okay.
All right, so we've each brought 3 carrots.
Yeah.
We'll pretend like these beads are carrots. So we brought 3 carrots.
Yeah.
And we want to know how many are all together?
Yeah. How many carrots do we have
Well,
for the party?
everybody put your 3 carrots down.
Okay.
Okay, and let's line them up. And now we're going to count them.
Okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9 carrots. Guess
Karen.
what? We just did a multiplication problem.
What? Really? How?
Yeah, we did multiplication. These colored beads can be used for multiple things: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, all kinds of things. And we did multiplication with them.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I have one more question.
Oh, okay.
I hope
sure.
this is okay. I don't think you can do this one though. I think this one is too hard even for your beads.
Okay.
Okay. Now when people come to the party,
Yeah.
they don't just bring carrots. They also eat them.
They also eat them.
Yeah. Now, but you know,
right, of
people are
course.
friendly. They don't want to eat all the carrots. So let's say we had our 9 carrots.
Okay.
And they ate 7 of them.
They ate 7 of them.
Yeah. How many carrots would we have left? You can't tell me that. I bet.
Well, let's pick a Montessori material to use. Do you want to use the red and blue rods, or do you want to use the colored beads?
I'm going to try those beads again.
Okay, well, let's try the beads.
Yeah, you and your
So-
special beads. Think you can do it all, huh?
I'm going to get out a 9 bead. Let's just count and make sure.
This one's a different color.
Let's make sure that there are 9 here.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There
Whoa.
are 9 beads. You're right. All right. And how
That's
many?
the same number of beads as we had before.
Yes. How many were eaten?
Well, we ate 7.
You ate 7. All right. So this is going to be kind of tricky, but
Okay.
we can do it.
All right.
We're going to count backwards and till we get to 7, and we'll see how many are left.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yes.
And I'm going to hold it here. Can you see how many beads are left?
1, 2.
2 beads are left. I'm just holding it like this to cover up the beads that we counted.
It's like
And
the
so,
beads
you know
are like
what?
the carrots we ate.
Do you know what I love to do?
Yeah,
When
no, tell me.
after I do a problem like this, I love to exchange it for the real answer. So I'm going to put this one back, and I'm going to get out a 2
Whoa.
bead. And so now it's really clear, isn't it? Would you like to hold that too?
Yeah, of
That's how
course.
many are left. Just 2 carrots. What do you think you'll do with those extra carrots?
I think I'll make a carrot cake.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
No, I'm kidding. I'll just eat them. In fact, I'm hungry already. Gotta go.
Of course. Bye-bye, Mr. Bunny. Thanks for doing math with us.
That Mr. Bunny learned a lot. He was a little spicy today, though, wasn't he? He
was,
was
yes.
not certain that those beads could do all this stuff. But beads are actually an awesome example of a material that if you are going to invest either time or money or both, depending on how you wanted to get those beads in your hands, they are worth it because you can
Yes.
do a lot with it. We did addition, subtraction, and multiplication. We used them with our preteen when we were working on
Oh, no, you
reinforcing
can
concepts.
just, you can just continue to use your colored beads and your golden beads as well. Stamp game, all those classic Montessori math materials. That's why they're listed under essentials.
yeah, and you'll just use them on and on and on. They're just amazing.
So, but let's go back and talk about these red and blue rods. I had promised that we would. We've already demonstrated to you several uses for them. You can make
That's right.
a maze with them. You can count them. What was Pia doing with them? Oh, you can measure with them.
That's right.
Like there's all kinds of wonderful things that you can do with them. But realistically, not everyone wants to have a set in their home.
That's right.
And in fact, I talked to someone on Instagram recently. They were like, Aubrey, give me the real deal. Do I really need those red and blue rods? And my answer was, if you're, they can be useful.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of parents do find that unsupervised, like they make really great
It's opening day soon, folks.
They make-
Baseball is here. And just in time.
They are very multi-use. Let's just leave it at that, okay? But also my other input was, if you're going to really embrace and use them creatively, like we've been talking about, then they're a shoo-in. But if you're thinking of them for their original and primary purpose, which is to teach one-to-one correspondence, the reason that these are so great, I mean, otherwise you could just go right to your beads, is that it's so big.
Yeah,
right?
the size
Okay, so,
really helps. They're colorful. They're simple, too. It's one alternating color after the other.
Yeah, so here I have a bead of 6 beads, and here I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me just get a 4 bead since we're comparing.
Yeah.
So here I have a 4 bead. They're real tiny, and children at a certain sensitive stage do love tiny things. That's partly why we use them. But this is harder for them at first to count. Those yellow beads all kind of blend together to the eye, even though it's a very simple number. Their little fingers don't, kind of have a hard time. And so you might notice that if you go to something like the colored beads first, when teaching counting to your children, they're going to miss beads while they're counting.
Now, sometimes we suggest using a little piece of paper, right? Or a little, isn't that right? To help sort of point to them?
Yes, we do. But for young children who are just learning that one-to-one correspondence concept, they can't
Even
do
that
yet.
is too hard, right?
Yeah. They can't do that. So what we're looking for in the lesson that you would primarily be teaching with these red and blue rods is that one-to-one correspondence, and that is that idea that this partition is one. This partition is one. This partition is one. This partition is one. And when we put them all together, this whole thing that I'm holding in my hands is 4.
That's right.
Okay, so it sounds simple, but it's actually quite complicated for young children to master. And so here's an idea that you can take with you, just food for thought. I literally was walking, we were actually on a walk together, although I didn't vocalize this out loud while we were walking. I was absolutely thinking about what you were saying at the time and not ruminating about Montessori instead. But we walked on a coastal trail recently along the bay, and the Golden Gate Bridge was beautiful. It was covered by a thick layer of fog, and as we were walking by some sand, and these places of sand and beautiful native bushes and all were held in an enclosure by a fence.
Yeah.
And the fence had posts in it, and then a little rope that kind of divoted. It's a very sturdy rope. And then another post over here, and another divot in, a rope to lead you from post to post. And what I was thinking when we walked by, when I was thinking about little children and how they explore the world mathematically with their whole bodies. And I was thinking, if a 2 or 3-year-old were, or a 4-year-old or 5-year-old were here right now with us, what they would be doing is they would be like bonking the middle section of their bodies into each partition. Yeah. Okay. That's learning one-to-one correspondence. And you can take these opportunities that are just around you, like a fence, even at like a regular backyard fence has slats that you can count. The point that is so great about the red and blue rods that's not found in these other math materials that are smaller is that you can put your whole hand in each one.
Even if it's a great big hand. Like mine.
Yeah, even if it's a great big hand. Their hands, of course, would be real little.
Tiny.
But also, in that, like, what if you were to throw your whole body into a partition and think about ways to, like, make it really big and impactful? And that's just what we're doing here with these red and blue rods. We're making the concept of counting bigger, and so that those little fingers don't have to have all that dexterity when they're counting yet. It's much easier to count with a whole hand than it is to count with an itty bitty little child's finger that doesn't have a lot of, maybe hasn't had a lot of practical life skill developing that hand strength yet. Does that make sense to you, friends?
Yeah, so the progression, kind of putting the stuff we talked about in the first half with this, let's say you're out on the trail or you're whatever, you're in the store and you're seeing your child engage with the world in this way. And because you have learned about sensitive periods and you're looking for certain things, you're able to recognize, oh, I'm seeing this behavior. This is a sensitive period expressing itself.
Yeah.
And I think, or you're going to brainstorm with your friends or you're going to come to the community or something and you're going to say, I'm seeing this, what could that be? And they're going to say, oh, this could be, this is like an early skill in math. And you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? That's when you would go to a scope and sequence and you say, well, what are the early skills that you would learn, the lessons that would go with it, right?
Yes.
In it, and then in this case, you're going to find one-to-one correspondence.
Yeah.
You're going to find counting games.
Right.
You're going to find red and blue rods, and then you're going to say, what exactly do I do now?
Well,
And so then you're going to either look at your book, or you could go, if you're in our community, for those of in your community, if you're not using it, this is the member site homepage, and we have the thing called the Lesson Explorer, and it has every lesson that we've ever produced in it. There are almost 3,000 in there in the database. Let's see here. So I'm going to type in red and blue rods, and it's going to search the database for it. And so here it's giving me some examples.
here it is on the card.
Yeah, red and blue rods, it just makes number sense, making 10 with the red and blue rods. Red and blue rods with 1 to 10 numerals. Okay, so this is popping up, and I'm just going to pick this first one here, or the third one actually. Okay, and then it's going to go find it. So this is red and blue rods. It just makes number sense. And then this is exactly what you would see in the book. You would see the level. So this is a level 2. So there's some predecessor skills that you might work on that would also be in the card. And then the exact steps for how to give the lesson. And then you have the official way to teach this lesson. And then as your child, you'll give the lesson. And if you really are seeing that sensitivity, then the child may very well enjoy working through this. Or it may just be something you want to put out on the shelf because you might give them the lesson and they don't immediately take to it, but that's okay. They want to come back to it a little bit later. And you're just going to make it available. And then you're going to let them practice with that lesson again and again.
Yep, that's right. Well, thanks for joining us, friends. I really appreciate your comments, those of you who showed up live and joined us.
Yeah, great comment.
It makes our Power Hour sessions much more fun and exciting. And I hope to see you next week, next Tuesday.
Yeah, it's our final episode in our materials deep dive.
Yes.
I think you'll find this one a particularly good one. And I'm sure Mr. Bunning will be back for some more hijinks.
I'm sure. Okay. All right, take care, everyone. Have a
See you soon.
great day.
Bye.